Welcome to the deep dive, where we sift through a whole stack of sources and try to find the most intriguing nuggets of knowledge. This deep dive is brought to you by FadedTech AI, helping you cut through the noise and get to the good stuff. Today, we are diving into the world of radar technology and its unexpected connection to flat Earth theories.
Yeah, it's a fascinating case study in how well-established, even scientific principles can be reinterpreted to support alternative viewpoints.
Exactly. We're going to be exploring arguments claiming that radar technology actually proves the Earth is flat, and we'll unpack the evidence, analyze the counterpoints, see if we can separate fact from, well, let's just say creative interpretation,
hmm
even if you're firmly on Team Globe.
Hmm.
This is a great way to sharpen your critical thinking skills.
Absolutely. It's all about understanding how evidence can be used and sometimes misused to support a particular narrative.
Yeah, for sure. So before we jump into the flat Earth claims, let's just do a super quick recap on how radar works, just the basics.
Okay, so at its heart, radar is all about emitting radio waves and then measuring how long it takes for those waves to bounce back off an object. That time delay tells us the object's distance.
Right, kind of like how bats use echolocation to navigate in the dark.
Exactly, or how a ship uses sonar to map the ocean floor, except instead of sound waves, radar uses radio waves traveling at the speed of light.
Okay, so radar sends out these radio waves, they bounce off stuff, we measure that return time, and bam, we know how far away things are. So where does the flat Earth argument come in?
Well, the core argument is this. If the Earth were a sphere, its curvature should block radar signals over long distances. Those radio waves traveling in straight lines should just shoot off into space instead of curving around the planet.
And since we know radar does work over long distances, dramatic pause, so the Earth must be flat. That's their logic.
It might sound convincing on the surface, but there's more to the story. For starters, our sources acknowledge that standard radar is limited by the Earth's curve. It's why ships disappear hull first over the horizon.
Seems like a point for Team Globe, right?
It would seem so, but this is precisely why more advanced radar techniques were developed, like over-the-horizon radar, or OT for short.
Now we're talking OTH radar bounces those signals off the ionosphere, that layer of charged particles way up in the atmosphere. It's like using the sky as a giant mirror.
And if the Earth were truly flat, we wouldn't need this clever workaround to achieve long-range radar detection. The signals would just zip along in straight lines forever. The fact that OTH radar exists actually undermines that flat Earth argument.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way. Our sources also bring up some other interesting radar-related observations. They point out that satellite radar is used to map the Earth's surface, from orbit.
And that military targeting systems factor in the Earth's curvature when calculating trajectories. If the Earth were flat, those calculations wouldn't be necessary.
Even the way naval radar systems track ships disappearing over the horizon piece by piece, it aligns perfectly with the spherical Earth model. So we've got satellite mapping, military targeting, even ships vanishing over the curve, all seemingly supporting Team Globe.
It's starting to look that way. But our sources wouldn't be true flat Earth proponents if they didn't have a few counter-arguments up their sleeves.
Okay, hit me with it. What's their rebuttal to all this evidence?
Well, they suggest, and this is where things get a little conspiratorial, that radar data could be deliberately manipulated.
Wait, are they saying that every radar system on the planet is rigged to support the globe? Lie? That seems like a stretch.
It's a bold claim, to be sure. Imagine a world where every radar system, from civilian air traffic control to top-secret military installations, is secretly calibrated to produce results that fit a spherical Earth model.
Yeah, that would require a massive coordinated effort. What would be the point of hiding a flat Earth? What's the motivation behind this grand conspiracy?
That's a question that goes to the heart of many conspiracy theories. And to be fair to our sources, they do offer some possible explanations.
Okay, let's hear them. What possible reasons could there be to hide a flat Earth?
Well, one suggestion is that it's about control. If you believe that you live on a tiny globe, a speck in this vast, indifferent universe, you're less likely to question authority. You're less likely to think big, less likely to rock the boat.
So it's about keeping people feeling small and insignificant.
Yeah,
Easier to control.
that's one interpretation. Another suggestion is that hiding a flat Earth is about concealing something else entirely, something bigger.
Bigger than the shape of the Earth. What could that be?
Some sources propose that a flat Earth model implies the existence of undiscovered lands hidden beyond the ice wall of Antarctica. Perhaps entire continents teeming with resources, knowledge, who knows what.
Like a flat Earth version of Atlantis. A lost world hidden from view.
Precisely. The theory is that if the Earth is flat and we're all confined to a specific area, There must be something beyond those boundaries that they're hiding from us.
Okay, so control hidden lands.
Yeah.
It's getting very Indiana Jones up in here.
Right.
What else?
Some sources go even further. They speculate that hiding a flat Earth is about suppressing knowledge of advanced technology. If they can convince us that we're stuck on this little ball, limited by the laws of physics as they define them.
We'll never look beyond. Never search for alternative forms of energy transportation communication.
Exactly. It's about keeping us dependent on the systems that they control. The oil, the electricity, the whole shebang.
So by hiding a flat Earth, they're essentially holding back human progress.
That's the argument, yes.
I know.
It's about maintaining the status quo, preventing us from reaching our full potential.
Wow, this is a lot to process. But let's stay focused on the radar aspect for now. We've established that there are some, shall we say, creative interpretations of how radar works and what it means.
Yes, and it's important to remember that correlation doesn't equal causation. Just because radar has limitations doesn't automatically prove the Earth is flat. There are other perfectly scientific explanations for those limitations.
Absolutely. But for the sake of argument, let's entertain the possibility that there's a grain of truth to these conspiracy theories. What kind of radar evidence would actually support a flat Earth model? What should we be looking for?
Well, our sources suggest a few scenarios. Imagine an independent radar system unaffiliated with any government or military that could consistently detect objects thousands of miles away with no interference, no bouncing off the ionosphere, no limitations whatsoever.
So radar that just works over any distance on a flat plane.
Exactly. That would be pretty compelling evidence. Or imagine military radar systems that suddenly cut off at a specific range as if hitting an invisible barrier.
Like the edge of the dome.
That's the implication. But of course, we're deep into the realm of speculation here.
Right, speculation and some pretty wild conspiracy theories.
Indeed. But even if we don't buy into the whole flat Earth narrative, this exercise has been valuable, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We've learned about how radar works, how it's used, and how even seemingly straightforward technology can be subject to wildly different interpretations.
And perhaps most importantly, we've had to engage our critical thinking skills. We've had to question assumptions, evaluate evidence, and consider multiple perspectives.
That's what the deep dive is all about.
Indeed. But we're not done yet. There's still much more to explore in our sources, including the alleged evidence for a firmament, the role of the Antarctic Treaty, and even the possibility of a global conspiracy to suppress the truth about the Earth's shape.
Well, folks, you'll have to join us for part 2 of this deep dive to hear the rest. Until then, keep those minds open, those questions coming, and remember,
there's always more to learn. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we went on to part 2, we were just starting to explore, the how of the flat Earth conspiracy. If there were one, how could it be pulled off?
yeah, the idea that like every radar system is rigged is pretty out there. But let's play along for a bit. How else do these sources suggest the truth about a flat Earth is being hidden?
One of the most common claims is that certain areas, particularly Antarctica, are off limits to independent exploration for a reason.
The mysterious Antarctica. They see the Antarctic Treaty, the agreement that limits activity down there as a way to keep people from discovering the edge of the world, right?
Exactly. In the flat Earth model, Antarctica is like a forbidden zone, the place where the illusion supposedly unravels.
So you can't just sail your yacht down there and check it out yourself.
Not without encountering some serious resistance. The treaty is seen as a carefully constructed barrier, preventing anyone from venturing too far south and potentially discovering the truth, or so the theory goes.
Okay, so restricted access is one way to maintain the supposed illusion. What else do they suggest?
Some sources claim that technology is used to manipulate our perception of the sky and weather.
Hold on, are they saying that weather is faked? Like a giant Hollywood production?
Not necessarily faked, but perhaps influenced in subtle ways. They often point to projects like HARP, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, as potential tools for distorting our view of the sky.
HARP, the one that conspiracy theorists link to everything from mind control to weather warfare.
That's the one. The idea is that HARP, or similar technologies, could be used to create artificial auroras, unusual atmospheric effects, or even mask the firmament itself.
A firmament cloaking device.
It does sound far-fetched, I
Yeah.
know. But remember, we're just exploring the claims made in these sources, not endorsing them.
Of course. Okay, so restricted access, potential weather manipulation, any other tricks up their sleeves?
Well, according to these sources, education and media play a big role in maintaining this grand illusion.
Ah, yes. The brainwashing argument.
Essentially, yes. The idea is that we're bombarded from a young age with images of globes, space travel, a universe that extends infinitely in all directions. This constant reinforcement of the globe model through textbooks, documentaries, even children's toys, shapes our perception of reality from the very beginning.
So if we were never taught about a globe, we'd naturally assume the Earth was flat.
That's the implication. They believe this constant exposure to the globe model is a form of indoctrination, a way to control the narrative and shape how we understand the world.
Like a subtle form of mind control.
You could say that. But let's bring it back to radar. If there really were a concerted effort to hide a flat Earth, how would they be manipulating radar systems to fit the narrative?
Right, they claim those limitations of standard radar, those line-of-sight restrictions are artificial, put there to create the illusion of a curved Earth.
Exactly. They believe that radar, if allowed to function without limitations, would reveal a flat Earth, where signals travel unimpeded for vast distances.
But didn't we already discuss how radio waves naturally weaken over distance, even on a hypothetical flat Earth?
We did, but some sources suggest there might be other factors at play. Perhaps hidden technologies that interfere with radar signals beyond a certain range, creating the illusion of a curved Earth.
Okay, now we're really deep down the rabbit hole. Hidden technologies suppress knowledge, a global conspiracy. It's all starting to sound like a sci-fi thriller.
It does, doesn't it? But remember, even the most outlandish theories can be valuable if they encourage us to think critically, question assumptions, and explore different perspectives.
So where do we go from here? We've explored the claims, the counterarguments, the methods of deception. What's the key takeaway for our listener?
I think the most important takeaway is the importance of discernment. Being able to sift through information, weigh the evidence, and form your own conclusions.
So don't just blindly accept what you're told, even if it comes from a source you trust.
Precisely. Do your own research, ask questions, challenge assumptions.
Yeah.
The truth, as they say, is out there, whether it's flat or round. Well, that's for each individual to decide.
Well said. But we're not done with this deep dive yet. There's one more fascinating aspect of this flat Earth radar firmament saga that we need to unpack.
Yes, the most intriguing question of all. What would it actually take to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Earth is flat? What kind of evidence would be undeniable, irrefutable?
That's a great question. Well, for that, you'll have to join us for part 3 of this deep dive. We'll explore the hypothetical scenarios, the thought experiments, the potential smoking guns that could finally settle this debate once and for all. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the deep dive. So we spent the last 2 parts exploring how flat earthers interpret radar technology and even entertained some pretty wild conspiracy theories about how a flat Earth, might be hidden from us. But let's wrap things up with a thought experiment. What kind of evidence would it actually take to really prove that the Earth is flat?
That's a great question, and it pushes us to think critically about how we evaluate evidence and form conclusions, in general. Our sources suggest a few hypothetical scenarios that, if they actually happen, would certainly shake things up a bit.
Okay, lay it on me. What kind of smoking gun radar evidence would make even the most diehard globe believer question everything?
Well, one scenario involves an independent research team conducting a large-scale radar experiment. So imagine they set up, a powerful radar system in a remote flat location like the Bonneville Salt Flats and start beaming signals out over incredibly long distances.
Thousands of miles, way beyond what conventional radar, is supposed to be capable of.
Exactly. If the Earth were truly flat, those signals should travel unimpeded. They should be able to detect objects, mountains, buildings, anything at distances far beyond what the globe model would allow.
So they're basically trying to ping the edge of the world. See if their radar signals hit a wall.
In a way, yes. If they detected a sudden cutoff point, an invisible barrier beyond which nothing could be detected, that would be pretty compelling evidence for something unusual.
Like the firmament that domes some flat earthers believe encloses our world.
That's one interpretation. Or maybe it wouldn't be a physical barrier, but some kind of energy field, a distortion of space-time that current science, just can't explain. Either way, it would be a major discovery.
Okay, so that's one scenario. What other kind of radar evidence could potentially, challenge that globe model?
Another scenario involves leaked data from military radar systems. Imagine a whistleblower reveals that these top-secret systems have a built-in range limit, an artificial cutoff point far shorter than what the technology is actually capable of.
So they're saying that these incredibly advanced radar systems are being deliberately dumbed down? But why?
To maintain the illusion of a globe, of course. If those systems were allowed to function at their full potential, they might detect objects far beyond the supposed curvature of the Earth, revealing the truth about a flat Earth.
Wow, that's a pretty bold accusation.
Yeah.
But let's say just for fun that one of these scenarios actually happened,
Yeah.
that we had undeniable radar evidence of a flat Earth.
Mhm.
What would that mean for our understanding of, well, everything?
It would be a monumental shift in our understanding of the universe, as we know it. Everything we thought we knew about astronomy, physics, even our place in the cosmos,
Yeah.
would have to be reevaluated.
Textbooks would need to be rewritten, space programs rethought, our entire worldview turned upside down.
It would be chaotic, confusing, and exhilarating all at the same time. It would force us to confront the limits of our knowledge and embrace the possibility that reality is far stranger than we ever imagined.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to think about. But let's bring it back down to Earth for a moment. We're a science-based show, and the overwhelming scientific consensus is that the Earth is, in fact, a sphere.
Right, and while it's always healthy to question assumptions and explore alternative viewpoints, it's also crucial to acknowledge the vast body of evidence that supports the globe model.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive into flat Earth and radar? What do we hope our listeners walking away with?
I think the most important message is the importance of critical thinking. Whether you're evaluating claims about the shape of the Earth or anything else, it's essential to approach information with a healthy skepticism.
Question everything. Look for evidence. Consider different perspectives. Don't just accept what you hear, even from sources you trust.
Exactly. The world is full of information, and it's up to each of us to determine what's true, what's false, and what's somewhere in between.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed exploring this fascinating and sometimes mind-bending topic with us. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.